everyone, and welcome to Pongers. My name is Anthony.
My name is Ryan.
And welcome to episode 1 of our brand new podcast. So if you're just starting off the podcast right now, I'd recommend going and listening to episode 0, which gives a bit of introduction to both myself and my friendly co-host Ryan. Ryan, what can they hear if they go and listen to episode 0?
Yeah, so in episode 0, we kind of just talk about ourselves a little bit. We try to get you guys a preliminary exposure, for lack of better words, to us, to get to know who hopefully you'll get to spend some of your time with when you're listening to Pongers.
Yeah. But for today, it's going to be our actual first real episode. So
a real boy episode.
Just in case you decided you didn't want to listen to episode 0, it's more or less just going to be a little bit of us talking about what we've done over the past week, anything we've watched, read, played, anything like that, before we get on to our actual topic for the week. As a bit of a sneak preview, you probably also saw this in the episode title. This week's episode will be on deception games, so stuff like Among Us, Town of Salem, Mafia, One Night Ultimate Werewolf, things along those lines. So yeah, this will be our first real episode. Hopefully everyone listens to more that we get put out.
Yeah.
So Ryan, what have you done over the past week?
Yeah, well, so I've actually started a new TV show. For those of you who don't know, I guess you don't, because you're just joining us probably for the first time. In that case, welcome. I've been watching a lot of Survivor, which is, if you haven't seen it, very interesting. And
I've been watching it with my girlfriend recently. She's a big Survivor super fan.
Yeah.
So I've been watching this most recent season together.
Well, my boss at work has been telling me about it, and I started watching it, and it's like the perfect TV show to binge because there's 40 seasons. So I started at the way beginning.
Okay.
With season 1, but I'm currently on season 2. I'm a little stuck right now because Hulu has some gaps. Like, there are some controversial episodes that they have to omit. So I'm in the hunt for finding the full season. But I digress. That's something I've been watching. Still playing a lot of Minecraft.
So I'm not allowed to talk anything about season 41.
Please,
that's
yes.
Out of bounds.
I would prefer not. I think I'm really excited to watch some more of the modern episodes, but I'm trying to get. I want to see all of them at some point. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing I've been doing a lot is playing Minecraft. That's something I've just fallen in love with. I do it a lot. In fact, I play so much Minecraft, I think that I've started to act like a Steve or someone in real life. For example, every time I go anywhere, I close the door behind me. There are like my bedroom in my house is in the basement, and my roommate needs to come through my room to do laundry. And I leave my door open most of the time so he can just come on down. But I've been closing it so much. They're like texting me, hey, can I come do laundry? I'm like, my door's closed. I'll close my bathroom door as if there's anybody to come from that direction. It's weird. But that's what I've been up to. What about you? What's been kind of taking up your time recently, Tony?
Yeah, so I've had 2 big things over the past week. Number 1, it's the new hotness right now. It might be out of date by the time this episode goes live, but I started and have watched a good portion of Squid Game.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything about this?
So fun fact, I guess I don't know if you knew this. I'm sure you must have at this point, but my father was born in Korea. So
I didn't know that.
Yep, that's from that's kind of where I have a lot of Korean family. And
yeah. So do you know any Korean? Can you have any fluency there at all?
I know one word and I'm going to butcher it, so I'm just going to avoid it.
Okay.
I know hello. I think most people that know anything about Korean will know that word, but I'll butcher it. I am not ethnically Korean. I know you guys can't tell that. I was adopted when I was very young, so that's where my Korean heritage comes from. But yeah, so my dad actually was the one who got me into it. I've only watched episode 1, so I haven't gotten too deep. I've been, stuck in survivor mode right now, but I will get back to it soon.
But yeah, I've been really enjoying it. It's like, you've played Danganronpa. We've both played Danganronpa.
Oh, yeah.
Which, for the audience that doesn't know about it, it's, kind of somewhat similar setup to Squid Game, which, death game, play the game, get the prize. In terms of the Danganronpa, except, it's a bit more murder mystery focus as opposed to focusing on the actual game. But I've been, surprisingly enjoying Squid Game, since there are some other people that have told me it's like, well, if you've, seen or read any like other death game stuff, like Hunger Games or Danganronpa or anything like that, then Squid Game might not have a lot to offer you. But I've been like really, really enjoying it. It's been like really captivating my attention. Really enjoyed like all the character work so far. Really enjoyed like it's character development. Definitely a lot of interesting twists on all like the decisions that all the characters have made so far.
Yeah.
But it has been a very, very good time. If it's still like even popular when we upload this first episode, I definitely still recommend watching it, even if it's not popular.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. And
oh yeah,
a lot of people that I've talked to about Squid Game are people that don't have. I can guarantee you, I've never seen any anime or done anything like Danganronpa. So anybody who's just interested in watching a weird kind of game show-esque like TV show with a lot of twists, you're gonna love this one.
Absolutely, yeah. But when I haven't been watching Squid Game, and I'm around halfway through the season so far,
Sure.
I've been playing this game called Amori.
Ooh.
It's a very kind of undercover, like pretty stereotypical indie game. It's modeled a decent amount after Earthbound. It's got like some metaphors for depression, but it's like an RPG that also has like a lot of really strong horror elements. Like the type where it's like after my first session, like I played it right before I went to bed. Gigantic mistake. I turned on lights whenever I went to the bathroom, brushed my teeth and did all of that, and just like perfect light, and it was even still feeling very nervous when I was in my room on my own, because it's very, very well done horror that
it's very well done.
Like
what? Sorry.
Very well done horror.
Horror. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Not a different word.
No. But a lot of the horror takes place in more like domestic settings. So, with me being in an apartment, horror, like set in that environment, works a lot better than just, summertime, summer camp type horror that, you'd see in like Friday the 13th or something like that. But it's been, like really charming, really good music, very well done writing so far, but it's been something that, I've really been enjoying and have tried to play at nighttime as much as possible to like lean into the horror aesthetic as much as I can and get spooked out as much as possible. So it's, it's October. You gotta scare yourself at least a little.
That sounds awesome. And, it's exactly like you said. It's the perfect time for it. It's spooky season. You got to get a little freaked out. I personally am terrible with horror things, but
yeah,
it doesn't mean it's not any. It doesn't mean it's any less fun. It's just I jump a lot, and then I will stay awake all night because of the nightmares.
Yeah.
But
well, and I've been working with some friends to watch some horror movies this month. Like I'm really trying to watch Jordan Peele's Get Out sometime this October.
It's actually an interesting film. I have seen it
yet. Yeah. And I watched his 2019 film Us, but not Get Out yet. So I have faith in Peele's like directing and writing and everything. Right. I just haven't gotten to his breakout film yet.
I feel like Get Out and Us are both like kind of similar in terms of. I mean, both obviously written by Jordan Peele, so there's his stylistic things are quite similar. But I feel like Get Out is more of like a streamlined kind of scary movie than Us was. I don't know. I felt like Us was more of like a thriller rather than anything, but
yeah, it was also definitely a bit weirder. Like the main actress in Us, I don't remember.
Yeah,
I'm looking up her name right now. Us cast Lupita Nyong'o. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right. But she was like the main mother character that had like two different roles, and I'm both astounded and pretty disappointed that she wasn't cast for like a best actress for the 2019 Oscars.
Yeah.
Since she just did like a phenomenal job playing two completely different roles that both like just one was like very unsettling, very off-putting, and the other was like very, very family woman type character. And she just totally nailed her stuff, and I'm kind of sad that she didn't get any recognition for that.
Yeah, I guess I don't know the other movies she's in, but she was very good in Us. I did like that. It was great.
Well, I think she was in Black Panther. Yeah, she was in Black Panther.
Who was she in Black
Panther? 12 Years a Slave.
She is in 12 Years a Slave.
I want to say she was Why can't I remember Black Panther's
I'll
name?
be honest, I've seen Black Panther once, and I definitely fell asleep through part of it. Not that it wasn't exciting. I just do that during movies.
Black Panther's good. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up her. She was Nakia in Black Panther, and she also played Maz Kanata in The Force Awakens.
I have not.
Interesting casting bit.
Was The Force Awakens episode 7?
Yeah,
I've seen that one.
that was episode 7.
I've not seen episode 8 or 9. Don't come at me. I haven't.
I mean, I'm not gonna come at you. Don't watch episode 9. Just don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. I'm not going down that rabbit hole today. I'm not.
I feel like
starting off with any Star Wars stuff on a first episode.
Oh,
the
gosh.
has enough Star Wars takes.
I feel like
I'm not contributing it to the first episode.
and the few things we've said already regarding Star Wars, any comments we're gonna have are gonna just be, all up in arms.
Minefield to navigate, and I just don't even care to navigate it anymore. I'm just done.
Fair enough. Become Trekkies or something.
But that is what I prefer in this day and age.
I've never seen it.
Pretty decent week. Gonna try to do more horror stuff in the lead up to Halloween.
Yeah.
Try to get some more movies. Maybe play like a really short horror game like the original Silent Hill or something like that.
Yeah.
Just really really quick thing to maximize the spirit of the month.
Yeah, I think I have a couple friends that are doing some they've some little activities like we're getting together to watch a movie one day, play games another day. One of my favorite things to do during this time is obviously I'm a big board game guy. Playing games like Betrayal at House on the Hill, other
classic.
Which is a almost not really a social deduction game. It's not exactly in flavor for today, but another game that we'll I'm sure talk about at some point. Just those kinds of what's gonna happen next kind of games.
Yeah, a lot of social dynamic there.
And as I was just gonna say one more.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say sorry. Two more things quick before we kind of maybe start to get into the topic for today. So for those of you who don't know, the reason Anthony and I even know each other is through our mutual friend Mark. And
shout out to Mark.
Shout out to Mark. Guy's awesome. He's my roommate. I mean, he's okay. Let's not sugarcoat it. He's all right.
Hey now.
I'm just kidding.
I'm not letting that fly by.
No, Mark's great. And the reason I bring it out, his birthday is on Halloween. So most of the Halloween things I've partaken in the last few years are not so much Halloween things, but more just to celebrate him. I don't want anything to take away from his day. So that's probably something I'll be looking forward to in the next few weeks as well. And then...
Oh, and also, I have Metroid Dread showing up tomorrow.
Ooh!
I got that ordered, so I'm going to try to play that pretty quickly since all of my friends have finished it already, and that's kind of annoying.
See, I don't know a whole lot about it.
I can't talk to them about that.
But,
well, it's like the newest Metroid
right,
game.
yeah.
It's like the 5th canonical entry, like the first new Metroid game in the main Metroid series in about 20 years.
Metroid is one of those games that I've never played, but I've seen a lot of gameplay of it. That's how Minecraft was forever too. So
yeah.
And just to kind of conclude this conversation on the spooky month, I do want to shout out, funnily enough, another podcast that I've been listening to a lot. I've been listening to it since the summer. It's called Red Web. It's a Rooster Teeth podcast starring Trevor Collins and Alfredo Diaz. Super cool. It's a podcast basically just diving into different mysteries. And if you're looking for something to listen to right now, if you're looking just for something to listen to forever, really, it's the perfect time to start. And I think the episode that just came out today was about Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. So
Nessie.
Yeah. Shout out to Nessie.
So how often do they do episodes? Is it once a week?
Yeah.
More frequently?
Well, they do episodes on Mystery Mondays, obviously. This is kind of something that Anthony and I have thought about kind of including in our podcast, shouting out other, works that other people do because other people work so hard on, their platforms and whatnot. So shout out to Red Web, shout out to Rooster Teeth. They make a lot of great content. So if you are listening to us and have somehow not heard of them by this point, check them out. They're awesome.
And I think I'm not going to say it quite yet because it might not be out next week, but I think I know what I'm going to do as a shout out for next week. But we'll have to see if it releases on time.
Ooh, okay. I'm looking forward to it. Well, let's dive into our topic for the week. And that topic is social deduction games. A little bit just kind of, I guess, about them. This is kind of, I know we had talked about in episode 0, if for those of you who had listened, that you and I have our own areas of expertise, and sometimes one of us will kind of direct the episode a bit more just because, we'll have more knowledge about it. I feel like this is something you and I both know quite a bit about.
Yeah, I'd say so. I've played a decent amount of like one of my main activities with my friends in college. We would get together, like on a Friday or Saturday night, and we would just play one night Ultimate Warrior for just hours, just hours, and just like week after week, just like we'd be like, okay, what roles are we doing tonight? All right, we can go for like 3 to 5 hours on this, and just not even get bored of it at all. Just totally powered.
And I'm so jealous because like all my friends in college, a lot of them liked games as well. And we would be like, all right, okay, let's do another. But after like 3 or 4 rounds, a lot of people would be like, let's do something else. And I'm like, I could do this for the next 48 hours. Ultimate Werewolf is a great example of social deduction game. Super fun. If you haven't played it, go play it. It's awesome. And it's not expensive, I don't think, either.
Yeah, so how about before we get into specific recommendations, we just give a layout of what we mean by social deduction.
Yeah, so
like from what I've kind of gathered, it's social deduction games is basically within a group of people, you have a player or maybe a group of players that are like the hidden quote-unquote evil group that are trying to overpower the masses in order to do a number of different goals. And like probably the most classic social deduction game of Mafia, you have the Mafia that's trying to execute all of the townspeople, like which are basically everyone else in the group, before they are found and lynched by the townspeople themselves. And so it takes like a lot of different forms, a lot of different theming. Ryan, do you think I've missed anything from like that core social deduction type definition?
Yeah, I think you pretty much hit it on the head there. I think definitely commonly done in teams. I think the only thing maybe you might have omitted is just that, like you said, you don't know where everyone's like intentions lie. They could be on your team, they may not be. Traditionally, you are aiming to a specific win condition. And that might be just a sole win condition, but it might be a win condition for you and all of your teammates. It's commonly there's multiple teams or teams in general, but sometimes you might just be by yourself.
Yeah. So, like probably like as I mentioned in my definition, probably like the basic easiest entry point for anyone that wants to try out these social deduction games is to just gather like a group of people and just play, like a game of Mafia. Like, Ryan, so have you played Mafia before? I just want to ensure that we got that basic.
I have played Mafia. I will say this. I'm surprised how many people in Iowa haven't heard of Mafia.
Really?
Yeah, I'll bring it up, for those of you who could have guessed it, now I live in Iowa. But, yeah, I bring it up with some friends, and some people are just like, I don't know what that is.
So, well then, in case the audience doesn't know about Mafia, let's give like the rundown of the rules, and also, we might have different versions of Mafia that we don't know about whatsoever.
True.
The rules that I've known is, there are 2 phases, like the night phase in which the actors I'm about to mention do their things, and then the day phase in which people discuss, try to figure out who the Mafia is, and then execute them. So during the night, you got the Mafia person who every night chooses somebody to execute, the doctor who chooses one person to save, and then, depending on the game, there's like a sheriff role that can find out whether the person that they point at is the Mafia or not. So, you have like your overseer of the game say like, okay, everyone go to sleep, everyone closes their eyes and such, and then instructs each role to wake up, do their individual action, and then go back to sleep before the night is over. The overseer reveals the results about who the Mafia killed, who the doctor saved, and doesn't reveal the results of the sheriff's investigation. And then you just go from there, let people claim roles, reveal things that did or did not happen, or things that they did or did not find out, anything along those lines.
Yeah.
Does that match up with your version of Mafia?
Pretty much exactly. You mentioned all the roles I've played with, which include the Mafia, the sheriff, the doctor. I think that what's really important, and you did hint on it a bit in your explanation, is that there's a storyteller that is basically there to add flavor to the game. You know,
Yeah.
and if you've ever played Town of Salem, which is a PC game you can get out on Steam, it's basically like.
I think you can get it on mobile as well.
Oh, you can. Yes, you can. A lot of people play it on mobile, but that's essentially just a Mafia, but like with a lot more. And since it's online, like the computer acts as the storyteller, so to speak, that because it's all programmed. But when you do it with a group of people in a circle, the storyteller sits there so that someone knows what's going on and can direct the game, but also to add like context. For example, if Tony were the Mafia and he had killed me in the evening, the storyteller may say, this Ryan was walking around late at night and all of a sudden heard a noise behind him, and out of nowhere this dark figure stabbed him with a knife or something like that. Like they would add that context just to add, fun to the game.
Yeah, because you can keep it dry and say, oh, this person died, this person was rescued, or depending on the storyteller, they might not say that they're rescued. They can say, oh yeah, Billy James Jr. he died.
Poor guy. Pour one out.
Sarah Sr. died. It's like it's like that's not that interesting.
Not Billie Jean Jr.
But,
I mean, you can't.
You can do more than that. You could do like a flowery description, describe how like the body was found in maybe peaceful, bloody state. There's a lot that you can do, and it's like obviously accessible because you don't really need anything to actually get the game going. Some people will like shuffle a smaller deck of cards, and if you get like a jack or a king or whatever, then you're the Mafia, and then base different rolls off of different cards.
Yeah, the first time I played it,
but it's very accessible to get into.
The first time I played it, it was based on cards as well. I played it at camp when I was a little kid, but then obviously I grew up, and that game actually became somewhat of like a filler for me because I graduated as an education major. And sometimes when I was in high school, for example, I was a TA for certain classes, and when we had nothing to do, my teacher would be like, "All right, come up with an activity," and I'd be like, "Perfect, we're playing Mafia," and everyone would get super excited, and we would just get in a circle, and it'd be super fun. I will say, the one of the great things about Mafia, and we kind of mentioned it, is that flavor. I think the best social deduction games are those that have a lot of that like flair, that context, like Ultimate Werewolf or One Night Ultimate Werewolf is a great example because of all of the different like lore almost behind it. Like, and they explain it in the rules and on the cards, and it's just super cool.
Yeah, well, because Werewolf is Mafia is like a great example of like an introductory social deduction game, but one that we've mentioned a few times with the One Night Ultimate Werewolf or even just Ultimate Werewolf is like a bit step up in terms of what's required to actually get into it. Because in terms of One Ultimate Werewolf, there is like a pack that you can buy that has pre-made cards that you can shuffle out, which each of them have individual roles, so that everyone during the night has something to do instead of just like the three main roles mentioned earlier.
That's a good point. I think that's one of it's definitely a step up, and it's definitely it's just exciting.
A bit more complex. Yeah. Because there's a little bit of wackiness where One Night Ultimate Werewolf, it only lasts for a single night, whereas like with Mafia, you keep going until either only Mafia are left, or they found or the town has found and executed the Mafia. But with One Night Ultimate Werewolf, it's like a nighttime segment of 5 minutes. Then you have 5 minutes to debate. Bam, you're done. After that, it doesn't really matter. And you can just start going again. But, it does take a little bit more buy-in, a little bit more understanding, not only because you got to buy the game, but you're not really trying to figure out who had like the individual quote-unquote like evil cards with the werewolves at first. You have to figure out who has the card at the end of the night in order for like the villagers to win. Because if Ryan and I were playing in a group, I could start with the werewolf card and I would be evil at the beginning of the night. Right. But if someone swapped mine and Ryan's cards throughout the course of the night and he ended up with the werewolf card, we would all have to execute him in order for us saintly villagers in order to escape scot-free and win the game.
Yeah, Werewolf seems rather simple upon first glance, but it's definitely one of those games that has a lot of complexity to it once you play. And I think that's just kind of a natural thing for social deduction games is that there's a lot to it, and that's particularly because there tends to be quite a few roles, different characters you could have to portray throughout the game. Werewolf is a great example of that, and I think that's also part of the reason it's so fun, because you have all these roles, and in order to play and have actually really fun games with social deduction games, you got to have a lot of people you love to play with, and that is in and of itself an advantage, but also a drawback, because it's hard to get a big group of people together. But if you can,
especially in this pandemic,
right?
age,
Exactly.
And
that's something we're going to talk about probably towards the end of the episode. Is there's a lot of things you can do online too, and that's going to be something we try to touch upon every episode. Just ways you guys can get involved with the topic. But we'll come back to that in a little bit.
One of the other big strengths that Werewolf has is, even with its increased complexity, that can be both, a bonus and a drawback, because, with One Night Ultimate Werewolf, it deliberately has several cards that players don't have. So there's a little bit of uncertainty as to which roles are even in play and working at the moment.
Sure.
So that you're not entirely sure.
Because the middle, yep.
Whether if somebody says that they're a role like a seer that can look at other people's cards, or a drunk that randomly changes things, whether they were even telling the truth or not. Adds definitely another big layer that's really engaging and keeps you able to play for those 3 to 5 hour time periods.
Absolutely. And 3 to 5 hours. I wish that's all I did for 3 to 5 hours sometimes. That would just be so much fun. I'm also a huge board game nerd, obviously. I don't know if you guys if I've said that enough yet, but for sure. We've talked a lot about, Mafia and Werewolf. Let's dive into some of the other games that are social deduction games. A perfect example that's super topical right now, Among Us. You've got and that's a bit more of a simpler game because there's really only 2 teams. Unless you're
and it's a simpler thing with the teams, and it's also a lot simpler with buy-ins. It's you can download it for free on mobile. You can go onto voice chat on Discord and connect with your group of friends pretty easily and get a game going. It's definitely an easier buy-in, easier for people to understand than something like a One Night Ultimate Werewolf.
I will say with mods, there's a lot that adds a lot of complexity, but that's kind of the great thing about that game is you can make it as complex as you want to. You don't have to. It's not just black or white. It's not an easier game or a harder game. You can kind of modify it. Thus the term mod. Another really popular one that mainstreamed for at least a year or two was Secret Hitler.
Yeah. So Secret Hitler is it's probably even another layer up on the complexity scale, and I haven't played it too many times. Ryan, could you actually give us a rundown on a basic overview of what it's like to play Secret Hitler?
Yeah, Secret Hitler, like many social deduction games, is one of those games that requires quite an amount of people, especially for the more people, the more fun it is. You've basically another one of those 2 teams, just outright 2 teams. You've got the fascists and you've got the liberals. There are essentially your goal is to pass legislation for your own side, whether fascist or liberal policies. And to do that, you get tiles. I won't go too specific, but essentially you want to have played 5 liberal tiles in order for the liberals to win, or I believe.
Well, I think the number actually changes on the amount of players that are in the game, if I remember.
I don't think the number of tiles you have to play to win changes, but it doesn't matter. Essentially, you have to have a certain amount of tiles placed in order to win, or if there are special powers that the president can unlock later throughout the game. And another cool aspect to this game, I might have to edit this later because I feel like I'm not doing a great job explaining, but another thing about this game is you have your teams, but you also elect a president and essentially a vice president every round. So your role kind of changes as the game progresses a little bit. And the president can get special powers, and based on those powers, if at any point Hitler gets killed, it's the other win condition for the liberals, or if Hitler is ever elected the vice president, that's the other win condition for the fascists. And it's
and there's some other rules where it's with everyone that votes on the policy. How does the president is given the policies to then hand to the parliamentarian or the chancellor? Yeah, it's not vice president, it's chancellor.
It is chancellor. I just figured that vice president was a bit more of a
Yeah, that's fair. But it's like there's like a lot of uncertainty because the policies that you can enact, like even if you are like a liberal on like the good side, you can just be given a bad hand and get all fascist tokens, and then be forced to implement like fascist policy, which makes you incredibly suspicious. So there's a really good layer there where it's like, in other games, like, when Ultimate Werewolf or Mafia, the good people will basically always act good. Whereas, in Secret Hitler, sometimes just throughout, like, aren't even given a choice to, like, even, like, good people might have to act good, bad people... Sorry, no, that doesn't even make any sense. I totally screwed that up.
I see what you mean.
Good people might have to act bad, and bad people might have to act good. There's always a layer of uncertainty as to whether people are actually telling the truth as to what policy they implement.
Right, that's
for into play.
Right, that's the additional kind of aspect of that game is, and you can ask any of my friends. I will say this, and I will carry this with me to the day I die about social deduction games, and I will stand by this forever. Generally speaking, when something seems obvious or is more obvious than other things, for example, when something bad happens multiple times as a result of one person's actions, chances are they're probably bad. That is like 99% of the time true. Like, that's just basic game social deduction, figuring things out kind of structure. I will say Secret Hitler throws a wrench in that because of that, your actions aren't always what you want to do. Your actions aren't always intentional because you don't always have a choice. And that aspect of that game is really, really cool. Yeah.
And that definitely, adds like really, really contributes to like the whole joy of social deduction, where it's like, in like other games that require a bit less buy-in, you just have to think about whether or not that person is telling the truth. But then you also have like a whole nother layer of like, are they telling the truth in this specific case about the exact details of what they got? It really adds to like the joy of social deduction games, just trying to read the room, trying to understand people, really trying to dig in and really, really understand how your friends around you work and whether or not they're telling the truth or just lying directly to your face and pulling you for a second.
And then the best part is when you realize they were lying, you get really mad, but at the same time, you're just like, that was so cool. Like,
you respect the play. You respect that they're just like, yep, I just got played.
Yep.
I got manipulated into electing fascists, and I'm done.
Yeah. What a great game. Maybe we could talk about a couple other games. I have a little bit more of a list here. One game that I was introduced to a couple years ago was called Deception: Murder at Hong Kong, which is a pretty neat game.
I haven't played that one yet.
Yeah, I won't go into too much detail. I feel like we've kind of explained a lot of different games, long-winded to say there's a lot of different things about different games that you could play, which is why this category of game is so cool, because each game adds a different kind of layer, as you put it. Deception is a fun game because only one person really knows what's going on, and it's everyone else's job to figure out who is bad based on certain pieces of evidence and certain like locations. That's all I'll say about that game, but a really cool game nonetheless. Another like kind of subcategory of social deduction games I wanted to dive into a little bit was like card games. There's a couple that are like just super cool. I think Avalon is one.
I was gonna bring up Avalon because like it's like a really nice like thematic twist where it's like Secret Hitler is very politically themed, but Avalon is like Knights of the Round Table, like Merlin and King Arthur and Morgaze and those types of like highfalutin fantasy characters.
Yeah, and that's another
very, very good aesthetic.
That's another great thing is like this aesthetic, this, like I said earlier, this lore, the context behind it all is just ties in so beautifully with them. Another couple of card games that I've actually become like obsessed with are Love Letter and Coup. Love Letter, essentially, the lore behind that game, you're trying to court the princess, and you can...
Is the princess one of the players, or is it just like an entity that everyone's trying to work towards?
So the interesting thing about this game is you don't have a role. You just have...
Okay.
You almost kind of have like a temporary role. Like you'll hold on to one card, and then you'll pick one up, and then you'll pick which one to get rid of. And essentially different cards will cause different actions that will result in people having to exit the round. And at the end of the round, you get a token, and whoever gets to the most tokens first basically has, like the lore is, has built up enough relationship between them and the princess to court them. To court her. So it's really interesting dynamic where you don't actually have a role, but it's still a social deduction game nonetheless. And then Coup is kind of one of those, not as political as Secret Hitler, but kind of one of those politically charged, like, here's what I can do with my current role, and you guys can all see it. That one is very interesting because there's a lot of lying involved. That one, you have a specific role, but you can always, and I mean always, claim to be someone different. That's the nature of that game. It's so cool.
Okay. That sounds like a fun time if you want to, like, really just start playing mind games with people.
Absolutely. That's the perfect game for you. It's Coup. It's spelled C-O-U-P, Coup. I will...
Yeah. I think I've even, like, owned a copy of that, or maybe my family has, and I've just never played it despite owning it for, like, 4 to 5 years.
You know, Mark isn't a very big fan of that game, which surprises me because his reasoning behind it, and I'm sure you guys will hear a lot of us talking about Mark because he's, like, our best friend. But he doesn't like it because, he's right when he says this, that game is very high risk, high reward. Like, if you lie you get away with it, you basically you're set. Or if you lie and get caught, you're screwed. You know, it's very high risk, high reward. I feel like that's exactly the type of game he would love because of his, like, committing to the bit type personality.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not his game.
He will go
He will.
Totally go for it.
We should just have an episode, like, called Mark.
Yeah, just titled Mark. It's like, let's contemplate the human mystery known as Mark.
And then we'll...
But all of the options that we've listed so far have been more in-person options. And while you can play some of them through, you know, like Tabletop Simulator on Steam or other options, you know, we are living in an age of, you know, global pandemic where, you know, people aren't able to meet up, but we're also living in an age where, you know, your friends might be living in a completely different part of the country or a different part of the world. So, what are our best ways, Ryan, to get in our social deduction addiction while we're spread out through space?
I will say I think addiction is the perfect word to describe this. They're so fun. And I personally think if you guys like games, if any of you listening like games and you get into this kind of like category of games, you're just going to love doing it. It's so much fun. We had mentioned Among Us. That's a mobile game you can download for free. You can also get it on Steam.
And it's pretty cheap. It's $5.
Yeah, it's not super expensive. Town of Salem, like I said, kind of one of those mafia styled games. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's got a lot more rules, but it's a bit harder to play since like people like speak in like a moon language, since they're like everyone's trying to like play hard into the metagame. So that's like, you know, requires a bit more time investment to actually understand what people are even talking about if you do decide to play Town of Salem.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that. You know, that moon language is like, once you're experienced, you'll be able to read it like English or like your native language, but until you've played the game a lot, it's going to seem like people are just talking a different language. Yeah. Let's see. Do you have any other social deduction games you can think of, Tony, that are just purely virtual?
Let me check my party games folder on Steam.
You just reminded me of one. For those of you who have not played any Jackbox games, please go play Jackbox.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah, specifically Jackbox 6 has a game
Push
called
the Button.
Push the Button that, you know, like leans more into the Jackbox flair of, you know, for those who don't know Jackbox, it's a lot more party game focused, trivia focused, but this one leans more into actually knowing more specific trivia about your friends. So, you know, it's a pretty fun time to catch people in lies about stuff that you know about them, that makes it, you know, more enjoying than just throwing out accusations one way or the other.
I will go ahead and shout out Jackbox in general because they always come out with new ones like once or twice a year and like new packs of like 4 or 5
that's
games.
Something else I'm going to be doing this upcoming week. I should probably save that for next podcast, but I'm playing the new Jackbox sometime this week.
But yeah, they like, what is it, 7 they just came out with?
Oh, 8 is
8,
this
yeah.
year. 7 is last
They just came out with 8, and a lot of great games that you can play. I think one of the most popular is Quiplash. Not a social deduction game, but a very fun game nonetheless. One I think I would consider this social deduction. Faking It.
Oh, which one is that
So
in?
I think it's in 2 or 3. Faking It is essentially a game where you get
Oh, yeah. Where it says, like...
you get a prompt and you
it's
have
like
to either like raise your hand or like put up fingers, and then someone doesn't know what the prompt is and has to guess what they have to do and blend in basically.
I would consider that social deduction.
That's like a really simple and cool inventive game that I'm jealous I didn't think of. Like some of these games that Jackbox has are so simple and just perfect party games that they just put all together conveniently for you. That you play it on your TV, you can play it on Steam, you can play it over Discord or online with your friends. Like it's perfect. Huge shout out to Jackbox. Thank you for making my life more interesting on my weekends.
Absolutely.
Those games are awesome.
I think that's about all that we have to say about social deduction games. Do you have any final thoughts, Ryan? Any other final recommendations to go yell at people to check out?
I mean, I could go on forever, but like you said, we're probably going to be wrapping up here shortly. I will say that this might be one of those, it's a bit of a shorter episode than we're going to have in the future. As you probably know, this is our first podcast for the two of us, so we'll be certainly working to add as much content to these as we can, and I'm sure we'll progress in our content as we continue as podcast co-hosts. I guess that's pretty much it in our content, but if you are listening and you have any games that you think are awesome that we didn't list or that we haven't talked about, comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're on Spotify. Another thing, you can also email us at pongerspod@gmail.com.
Yes. Yep. And if it's wrong, we'll put a correction in the description.
If it's wrong, I love that.
I'm pretty sure
I think it
right.
is,
We'll
but
see.
yeah, pongerspod@gmail.com. But if you have any comments on anything that you think we can improve on, anything you guys want to see, and like if there's a certain topic you think that would be fun for us to cover, something you want to hear more about, let us know. We'll do the research. We'll bring it back to you. Or if you have, like I said, any other recommendations for ways that people can enjoy social deduction games from home, or just other games that you want them to play, shoot us a message, leave a comment, and the more feedback from you guys, the better. I think that's how we build that's how we'll build the community.
Podcasts are such like a big community focused thing. It's really hard to just be two people who started a podcast that don't ever have any community engagement.
Yeah, and if I talk to Tony all the time. If I just keep talking to him, that's gonna be not really gonna be different than our normal lives.
Yeah, exactly. It will be nice.
It will be. We get to set aside some special time to talk, and hopefully people will listen. Alrighty, well,
but that's all that we have for today. We'll see you in our next episode.
Yeah, thanks guys. Goodbye. See you later.